Canadians to ditch the Ambassador Bridge that connects Canada to the U.S. and instead use the Windsor-Detroit Tunnel. It comes as the Trump administration threatens the opening of a new bridge that would connect the two cities.
After decades at the top, the Ambassador Bridge has been dethroned as North America's busiest truck crossing. The Blue Water Bridge has taken over the crown, signaling a major shift in cross-border trade.
A single bridge quietly lost its crown, and almost no one noticed. Not the public, not the headlines. Only when the numbers became impossible to ignore did the shift reveal itself. Because the busiest commercial crossing in North America didn't collapse, it didn't shut down, it didn't even slow dramatically, that IT was simply outpriced, outmaneuvered, and outperformed. For decades, the Ambassador Bridge between Windsor, Ontario, and Detroit, Michigan stood as the backbone of North American trade. It handled more truck traffic than any crossing on the Canada-US border, sitting at the heart of one of the most concentrated industrial corridors on the continent, where automotive supply chains operate with precision timing, tight margins, and zero tolerance for delay. But that dominance has now changed. The Blue Water Bridge, connecting Sarnia, Ontario to Port Huron, Michigan, has overtaken it. In 2025, it recorded around 2.1 million truck crossings, compared to roughly 1.9 million at the Ambassador Bridge. And the trend isn't slowing. Early 2026 data shows the gap widening even further. This isn't a temporary fluctuation. It's a structural shift. When traffic data consistently favors one route over another month after month, it signals a deeper change in how logistics networks operate. Even officials have confirmed it. The Blue Water Bridge is now the busiest commercial crossing on the border. So why are trucking companies willing to drive an extra hour north? The answer is simple and powerful: cost. The Ambassador Bridge charges up to $27 per axle for commercial trucks. The Blue Water Bridge charges closer to $7. On a standard 5-axle semi, that's about a $100 difference per trip. For a single truck, that might seem manageable. But for large fleets running dozens or hundreds of crossings each week, that difference compounds into a major financial factor, one that directly shapes routing decisions. But cost alone isn't the full story. Efficiency matters just as much. The Windsor-Detroit corridor is dense, urban, and often congested. In contrast, the Blue Water Bridge connects directly to major highways, offering smoother, faster, freeway-to-freeway movement with minimal delays, lower cost, faster transit. When those two advantages combine, the decision stops being a preference and becomes an optimization, and that's exactly how modern logistics works. This shift goes far beyond a single bridge. The Canada-US border moves roughly $3.6 billion in trade every day. When traffic redistributes between major crossings, it doesn't just change routes, it reshapes the physical flow of continental commerce. Timing makes this even more critical. The shift is happening during a period of rising trade tensions, tariffs, and economic pressure. Industries like steel, aluminum, and automotive manufacturing are already operating under strain. In regions like Windsor and Sarnia, unemployment has climbed as supply chains adjust that environment. Businesses can't afford inefficiencies. Every unnecessary cost becomes a liability, and that makes the Ambassador Bridge's higher tolls increasingly difficult to justify. The result? A steady, sustained migration of traffic, not a temporary shift, but a long-term realignment driven by hard economics. But the story doesn't end there, because a third player is about to enter the scene: the Gordie Howe International Bridge. Designed to modernize the Windsor-Detroit corridor, it comes with a highly competitive pricing strategy, around $6.90 per axle under discount programs. That's significantly lower than the Ambassador Bridge, and directly competitive with the Blue Water Bridge. This isn't accidental, though it's a direct play for commercial traffic. Once operational, the new bridge is expected to trigger another major redistribution of routes. Carriers currently using the Blue Water Bridge may reconsider, drawn back to a more direct crossing with lower costs and modern infrastructure. But delays have complicated the timeline. As of early 2026, the bridge has yet to open despite earlier projections. Those delays are costly, with some estimates suggesting losses of millions of dollars per week. And then, the situation took an unexpected turn. What began as an infrastructure project turned into a geopolitical flashpoint. Political tensions escalated when former U.S. President Donald Trump suggested blocking the bridge's opening, arguing the United States was being taken advantage of. Canada responded carefully but firmly, pointing to the original agreement. Under a 2012 deal, Canada financed, The entire project, over $6 billion, covering construction on both sides of the border. In return, ownership is shared, and Michigan will receive a portion of long-term toll revenue after costs are recovered. In other words, this wasn't a one-sided deal. IT was a strategic investment in shared infrastructure, and the stakes are enormous. This corridor handles nearly a quarter of all trade between Canada and the United States. Thousands of trucks cross daily, supporting industries that rely on constant, uninterrupted movement. Disruptions here don't stay local. They ripple across factories, supply chains, and entire economies. That's why opposition to blocking the bridge came quickly and from both sides of the political spectrum. Leaders emphasize its role in reducing congestion, improving efficiency, and strengthening economic resilience. Because for decades, the system relied heavily on a single crossing, the Ambassador Bridge. That created vulnerability. The Gordie Howe Bridge was designed to fix that, adding redundancy, reducing bottlenecks, and cutting transit times. Even a 20-minute improvement per trip scales into massive savings when multiplied across thousands of daily crossings. Blocking that kind of efficiency doesn't protect the economy. IT limits it despite the political noise. Construction has continued. Agreements remain intact. The legal foundation is strong. And once the bridge opens, another shift is inevitable. Traffic will redistribute again. The balance of power between these crossings will be rewritten, not by tradition, but by economics. Because the pattern is already clear, carriers will go where costs are lower. They will reroute when efficiency improves. They will adapt quickly when the numbers make sense. The geography hasn't changed. The cities are still there, the factories still operate, the demand still exists, but the way that geography is used is being redefined. And now, a bigger question emerges. If cost and efficiency are already reshaping trade routes, what happens when politics starts reshaping them too? Because when infrastructure becomes more than just infrastructure, when it becomes leverage, the entire system becomes more complex and potentially more fragile. The next shift isn't a possibility, that it's already in motion, and it might be bigger than anyone expects.